So business on the programme. Stephen's with us here on set. Stephen, you've been looking at market reaction, haven't you, to the latest threat from North Korea?
That's right. As soon really as Donald Trump had tweeted that fire and fury message, we already had reaction on Wall Street on trading on Tuesday, with markets finishing there in the red. In Asia, investors are digesting North Korea's threat to the island of Guam. The Nikkei in Tokyo finishing the day down 1%. The Kospi in Seoul also seeing falls of over 1%. That's playing into trading in Europe today as well, as markets open up in the past while. We've got London, Paris and Frankfurt all trading down at the start of the session. In the past, markets have tended not to be so concerned about threats from North Korea, but since the start of this year, we've seen them taking it more seriously, investors more concerned about what North Korea is up to with its missile programme, and also, of course, how Donald Trump is reacting to that.
Just turn to Disney now on the programme. It's cutting its ties with Netflix, isn't it?
That's right. It's going to launch its own on-demand streaming services, and that'll mean scrapping a deal to put future movie releases on Netflix, including the likes of Toy Story 4 and the sequel to Frozen. The new services from Disney will start with a sports channel from ESPN, followed by another in 2019, which will carry films and other Disney shows. Now, Netflix will continue to produce shows based on Disney-owned Marvel characters like Jessica Jones. This move, announced by CEO Bob Iger, comes as revenues from Disney's cable TV division fell by almost a quarter in the last 3-month period. It's a major step in cutting the cord between content creators and broadcasters, whether that's cable providers or the likes of Netflix. On the markets, we saw a reaction to this after hours trading on Wall Street. Netflix shares tumbled first by 7%, clawed back some of those losses though to finish down 3%. Disney investors not really sure what to make of this either, its shares falling by nearly 4%.
Now, the authorities in Spain's Balearic Islands are taking new steps to combat a housing shortage there.
And in particular, they're targeting illegal short-term lets on websites like Airbnb. The goal is to bring down inflated summer rents on islands like Ibiza and Majorca. New rules state that anyone renting without a licence will face fines of up to €40,000. Nadia Massi has the story.
It's a familiar sight in Majorca. Thousands of tourists fill the island's beaches, its restaurants and its homes. Foreign visitors are a boon for Spain's economy, accounting for more than 12% of GDP. But a backlash has begun against the country's seasonal guests. Rents are going up, pricing locals out of the marketplace. Here in Majorca, rental prices have jumped by 40% in the last 5 years.
I can't afford anything. Tourism generates money, but it's unacceptable that locals can't afford rent.
Now authorities in the Balearic Islands of Ibiza, Majorca, Menorca and Formentera are taking action. Landlords will be penalised for illegally renting apartments to tourists.
Citizens are increasingly critical of the nuisance that excessive mass tourism can generate, and we share that criticism of the government.
But with tourism at the heart of Spain's economic growth, Madrid knows it's a balancing act.
The tourism industry employs over 13% of Spanish workers. More than 2.5 million Spaniards work in the tourism sector, and we have to take care of our tourists, spoil them and treat them well.
Attempts to regulate the sector have been made before. Renting without a licence was banned in 2012, but enforcement was largely non-existent. Now, with fines up to €40,000, the government is hoping for better luck the second time around.
And finally from Stephen, we're all used, of course, to being asked to change our passwords regularly, but the man who made up those rules, now he actually is saying now that he might have been wrong.
So back in 2003, a man called Bill Burr wrote the guidelines for America's National Institute of Standards and Technology on passwords. They include the things like using numbers or special characters and changing your password every 90 days. That advice became the Bible for many companies. Interviewed in the Wall Street Journal, he says the guidelines were rushed, though, and that he regrets many of the things that he recommended. Those guidelines have now been updated using all of the data from the past 15 years on cybersecurity. They recommend recommend using longer passwords made up of 4 words rather than a combination of random characters, and there's no need to keep changing the password unless there's evidence of a security breach. What they found over that period of 15 years is that people tend to change a single figure rather than necessarily changing the whole password, which was sort of defeated the purpose.
Exactly. Well, there you go. Now you know. Just hope the bosses are watching. then we won't have to keep remembering lots of different passwords. Stephen, with business